Chapter 13 Marauders. Despite being docked to the habitat station, Marathon was not powerless. Starfighter pilots raced to the hangar bays, eager for a chance to sortie against the enemy. Elodie had also reported to the hangar. Officially, she was not supposed to be here, but she did not care about that. Lieutenant Pavlo Ivashchenko and his fellow pilots were gathered around his starfighter, Zoya's Charm. They were going over their plan for the upcoming battle. "The VWAX team reports cloaking signatures," Pavlo was saying. "Our friends up in the CIC think there could be as many as 4 Destican warships hiding among the Marauders." "How are we going to fight them?" another pilot asked. "The Biryuza missiles are duds." "Chief Engineer Kazuki has found a way to reconfigure the unguided bombs for use in Zero-G," Pavlo replied. "Our mission is to clear the way for 2 of the Tupolev bomber squadrons. We'll pin the Marauders down, and then the Stormrunners and Ghosts of Kiev will deploy Fab 700 bombs against them." "Fab 700s?" another pilot complained. "Aren't those the gravity bombs we use against terrestrial targets? You know, on the ground?" "You want to use the dud missiles, be my guest," said Pavlo. "Get to your fighters and prepare for launch. The air boss will signal the bombers when we're ready." As the pilots broke up to go their separate ways, Pavlo spotted Elodie. "I'm sorry to say, my original Wizzo came back, so I don't need you for this fight," Pavlo said, giving her an apologetic look. "I promise I'll make it up to you at our next date." "Oh, you'd better," Elodie replied, giving him a sly smile. "I found a new scenario in the Virtual Combat Simulator files. A long-range stealth bombing mission. We'd be the only ones in the Tupolev for hours, hiding in the dark void of space while a horde of Desticans try to hunt us down." Elodie and Pavlo embraced, their arms wrapped tightly around each other. "Only you would get turned on by the thought of a fight like that," Pavlo teased her. "I'll be there." While the starfighters launched their mission against the incoming Marauders, Elodie returned to the armory. Because none of the Marine officers had survived the initial ambush of last month, Elodie was now the commander of the Marine detachment. During battles like this, it was standard procedure to secure the ship against a possible boarding action, and that was exactly what Elodie planned to do. At Elodie's command, Space Marines were dispatched to secure the airlocks and hangar bay, which were the points where an enemy boarding party was most likely to arrive. Then she descended to the lower level of the armory, where the military androids were stored. These human-shaped automatons were normally deactivated, but they were always brought online during emergencies. Depending on the situation, the androids could be used to augment the damage control teams, or be given weapons in order to act as Marines. Elodie had barely entered the android bay when she noticed something was amiss. One of the military androids had been removed from its storage pod and was now standing in the middle of the room. The back of its head was opened up as though someone had been doing maintenance work on the droid. But Elodie knew that no such work was scheduled. She unholstered her pistol and called out, "Who's there? Show yourself!" There was a metallic rustling noise, and 2 shapes emerged from the shadows. At the same time, 2 sets of bright red eyes illuminated themselves. It was Delegate and Nilla. The 2 androids approached Elodie slowly, with their hands raised. "This is a restricted area," Elodie snapped. "What are you doing down here?" As she spoke, Elodie reached down and tapped the panic button on her radio. Then she leveled her pistol at Delegate. "I was surprised to learn that there are other synthetic life forms aboard this vessel," Delegate said. "I had to meet them." "Delegate encouraged me to come along," Nilla added, folding her hands and looking down at the floor in a way that suggested she felt embarrassed. "I did not expect Delegate to try and activate that unit without the authorization codes." 4 members of Elodie's squad burst into the android bay, weapons drawn. Elodie pointed at Delegate and Nilla. "Both of them, break," Elodie said, "and flip Delegate's switch while you're at it." Hermione, Takahito, Ashok, and Reza closed in on the androids. I am a sentient life form, Delegate protested. To deactivate me against my will is a form of assault. Reza got behind Delegate and restrained the android's arms, while Ashok plugged an electronic cable into Delegate's head. Reza fed the other end of the cable to his wrist-mounted computer, which he used to send the shutdown command. Delegate shuddered and then slumped as he powered down. Nilla let out a frightened squeak, but allowed the Marines to lead her away. Elodie holstered her pistol and sighed. "Could this day get any stranger?" she said to herself. As if in answer, Elodie's radio squawked. "Security to the bridge," a voice called through the speaker. Sota had called security by reflex, but he knew he had done the right thing. Just a few paces away, Acting Captain Esperanta was pointing into an empty corner of the bridge. "You saw it, right?" Ino asked. "No," Sota replied. "I didn't see anything." "There's nothing there," said Ryland Quinn. "What were we supposed to see?" asked Chief of the Watch Zhao Hui. "There was a Destican," Ino said. "The same one who was in my quarters a couple weeks ago." Many of the bridge crew looked around, unsure of themselves. But Sota was not one of them. He had grown up in the criminal underworld, a street urchin of Singapore. Sota's dark upbringing had taught him to always be on guard for those who would do him harm. His instinct told him that Ino should be believed, and that there really was a threat. Elodie and her security team entered the bridge, weapons drawn. "Did one of you bring a padcom?" Sota asked. "Scan for life signs, right over there in that corner." Reza Agdashlu raised an eyebrow, but complied. "No life signs, but I do see traces of an energy signature, as though a directed energy weapon was being aimed at the bridge." "Scan that Marauder fleet again," Ino ordered, "and give me updated positions on those cloaked ships." "The cloaked vessels have moved again," Frisco Mancini reported from the electronic warfare station. "They've separated themselves from the Marauder fleet. Best guess, there are either 3 or 4 of them. Size and type remain unknown. And... oh, wow! I don't believe it!" "What is it?" Sota demanded. "Marine, give me your padcom," Mancini said. "I need to see that data on the directed energy weapon." Agdashlu and Mancini put their heads together, working the data while the rest of the bridge crew watched nervously. Then Mancini looked up. "Captain, we've got your energy weapon. One of those cloaked vessels is projecting a type of energy we've never seen before, and the beam is aimed right at the bridge." Sota felt his blood run cold. "Someone get a Geiger counter in here," he ordered. He was interrupted by Communications Officer Ndungane. "Captain, we're being hailed by the Destican warship Kailasha." Ino and Sota looked at one another, mouths agape. "What's the status of our fighters?" Ino asked quickly. "They're at positive control points," replied Zhao Hui. "If we do nothing, they'll start the attack in 5 minutes." Ino nodded. "Okay, we've got their feet to the fire then. Establish communication with Kailasha." It took about a minute before the video link was established. Sota stood at Ino's side while they watched the video screen come into focus. A Destican man appeared on the video screen, sitting behind a desk in what probably passed for the enemy's version of a ready room. There was a second, much older Destican standing behind the first, dressed up in what appeared to be the robes of religious clergy. "This is Captain Ino Esperanta of the Coalition warship Marathon," Ino said. Sota noticed that Ino had stopped referring to herself as acting captain, and tried to give her a reassuring glance. Ino went on. "We detected your cloaked ships hiding among the Marauder fleet. We have your location now, and my starfighters are in position to destroy you," Ino said. "I advise you to surrender." The older Destican in the back cleared his throat, then began to speak in his own language. Axiom's voice sounded from the intercom speaker. "Auto-translate is now running." The ship's AI spoke in English on behalf of the Desticans. Shaman Paranold of the Astral Fellowship introduces you to his master, the most honored and glorious Prince Araj Zilfalin, son of the great Nivella of Decronia, may he live forever, and commander of the Kailasha. That's him, Ino whispered out of the corner of her mouth. That's the Destican I just saw, and the one who was in my room, too. The one sitting or standing? Sota whispered back. Sitting, Ino replied. The prince, he's the one. The shaman fell silent as Araj Zilfalin started to speak. Axiom translated. Ino Esperanta, you paid me a great insult when last we spoke. Sota felt a chill run down his spine. As far as he knew, Ino and this Prince Araj had never met, yet he spoke to her with disturbing familiarity. I say again, we've got you dead to rights, Ino pressed. Surrender before my people start shooting. It is you who should surrender, Araj replied. The braves answer to me, and they will earn their payment by bringing you to me. The cosmos demand it. I will have you, Esperanta. Ino stammered. Confused muttering went around the bridge. Ino looked at Sota. He had his chance. Cut him off and signal the attack, Ino said. Indungane terminated the communications link. Sota looked at Ino. He wants you? Sota repeated. No fucking idea, Ino replied. Squadron leaders report ready to attack the Marauders, Indungane cut in. Call up the air boss, Ino said. I want another squadron of starfighters to go after those Desticans. But before anyone could reply, Crispin's voice sounded over the intercom. CIC calling bridge. The Marauders are redeploying their fleet. Talk to me, Valant, Sota answered. What are they doing? Our sensors are picking up signals we're having trouble resolving, Crispin said. There's a 50% chance that it's weapons fire, but there's also a 50% chance that they're launching smaller vessels. Those Marauder ships look too small to carry strike craft, Sota said. They're about the size of destroyers and cruisers. What could they be launching if not missiles or strike craft? Ino asked. Sota and Elodie folded their arms, thinking hard. Then, both of them reached the same answer simultaneously. Breaching pods! Sota and Ino started to give orders at once. Call the starfighters. Tell them to focus fire on the breaching pods, Ino said. With what? Sota replied. They're configured for anti-ship bombing runs right now. Liechtenstein, full security lockdown. Get ready for a brawl. All right. Elodie gave an enthusiastic war cry as she gave orders to her marines. Prepare to repel boarders. Out in the darkness of open space, Pavlo turned his Su-77 squadron to engage the breaching pods, but they had the wrong weapons for such an engagement. Hundreds of tiny spacecraft shot past the squadron and into the crowded space around Quantum Crossing. At the last moment, the skies lit up as the breaching pods ignited their maneuvering thrusters. Dozens of them landed on the outer hull of Quantum Crossing. Dozens more impacted the civilian and caravaneer starships orbiting the habitat. And finally, about 30 breaching pods landed on the Marathon itself. Intruder alert! Crispin called over the intercom. Intruders on decks 2, 3, 5, and 9. Seal the bridge, Sota ordered. Isolate critical systems. Lock down the AI core and antimatter reactor. Bridge, this is the AI core. Axiom spoke over the intercom. Internal sensors show 5 boarding parties. 1 is heading for the bridge. Another is moving toward the antimatter reactor. A third is going to life support. Intruders also spotted near the armory. The 5th team is moving toward Hangar 1. Total enemy force is 285 infantry. Lock down those areas and arm the crew, Sota ordered. Axiom, we've got to use life support as a weapon while we still control it, Ino ordered. If you see the intruders in an area by themselves, kill life support in that area. Understood, Captain, Axiom replied. Be advised, intruders are nearing the CIC. Crispin, barricade the CIC, Ino called into the intercom. Gunfights reported on decks 2 and 9, Indungane said. Sota raced to the one and only door that led onto the bridge. It was already closed, and Elodie was working on sealing it from the inside. I'll do this. You arm the bridge crew, Sota said. Elodie nodded and darted to a nearby weapon locker. She used her command code to unlock it and started distributing weapons to the bridge crew. A weapon for every man and woman! Everyone defends Marathon! Sota hotwired the door, making it impossible for the door controls to be accessed from the other side. The bridge was sealed.
Creeping in my sword's getting out of control. I gotta find my escape, get out of this black hole. Cause justice in the world is hard to find. Time has come, gotta make up my mind. No matter how deep or remote I hide, all my thoughts seem caught up inside. Creeps from the deep, gonna be freaking up your mind.